few weeks ago, I tried something kind of strange. Every time I made a decision in my business, any decision, big or small, I made a tally mark. Just a little one on a notepad next to my computer, and I figured I'd land somewhere around 20 for the day, right? Like something manageable, something that felt like a sane number for a normal work day. But by lunch, I had already lost count twice and I had to start over. And by the end of the day, the number wasn't even close to what I expected. And once I actually saw it written down, I understood something about why I feel drained by 2 p.m. every single day. Even on the days where I hadn't technically done so much, I still feel drained. And here's the thing I've believed without ever really examining it, right? I thought exhaustion came from output. Like if I was tired at the end of the day, it was because I'd done a lot of things, built a lot of things, produced a lot of things. Tired meant productive. That was the equation in my head. But the reality is that's only half true because a huge amount of what actually drains a business owner, it's not the doing, it's the deciding. And nobody really talks about this because deciding doesn't look like work from the outside. You're not visibly building anything when you're standing in your kitchen trying to figure out how to word a reply to a client, but it still costs you something. So here's what I actually did. I tracked every single decision for one day. And I mean every single one, right? Like small and big. I'm talking about all of it. What to say in a Slack message, whether to respond to an email now or later, which task to start with, whether a piece of feedback from a client meant I needed to change something or just acknowledge it, whether to follow up with someone who had gone quiet, and if so, when and how. These are just a small snippet of the types of decisions. And I genuinely figured I'd land somewhere around 20 for the entire day. That's what I guessed. 20 felt like a real number to me. It felt reasonable and maybe a little embarrassing to admit it now, but by midday, I had already blown past that number. And I remember actually laughing a little because I realized I had been undercounting on purpose without even meaning to. Some decisions felt too small to deserve a tally mark. Should this email start with hi or hey? Is this the right emoji? Should I send this now or wait an hour so it doesn't look like I'm always here, always ready to reply? I kept almost skipping those. And then I'd catch myself and I would think, no, that's still a decision. That's still costing me something. By the end of the day, my actual number was over 200 decisions. 200 for one day. And what stood out to me wasn't even the total, it was what made up most of it. The vast majority weren't the big strategic calls you'd picture when you think about running a business. They were the small ones, repetitive, mostly invisible decisions made over and over all day long about things that individually felt like nothing. And here's what got me: decision fatigue is real. And I'd heard the term before, but I'd always pictured it applying to people making genuinely hard, huge, high stakes choices all day. People like judges, right? Or doctors, not someone deciding what to say in a Slack message. But the research doesn't actually care how big the decision is. Your brain spends real energy every single time it has to choose, even when the choice is tiny. 200 tiny choices cost you something close to what a much smaller number of big ones would. That explains so much to me. Why I'd sit down at 4 p.m. to do the one piece of actual deep work I'd been planning all day, the one thing that mattered most, and just not have anything left for it. Like, it wasn't laziness, it wasn't poor time management, even. It's just I didn't have anything left. I'd spent the whole day's capacity on 200 small choices before I ever got to the one big one that actually needed it. Here's what this actually exposed for me: I'd been treating every decision like it was free, like deciding didn't cost anything, only doing did. So I never protected my decision making energy the way I protected my time or my money. I just spent it all day on whatever showed up first, assuming I'd have plenty left for what actually mattered. And the truth is, most business owners are running on a kind of debt by mid afternoon and they don't know it because nobody's ever told them to look at it this way. You don't budget your hours and then also separately budget your decisions. But maybe you should start. If you want to see your own numbers, just try it for a day. Keep a tally. Every decision, even the ones that feel too small to count, and honestly, especially those, because those are usually where the count actually lives. And once you see your number, the real shift isn't trying to make fewer decisions overall. That's really not possible, right? When you run a business, it is constant, but it's noticing which of those 200 decisions didn't actually need to be made by you in that moment or at all. You can do things like create templates for emails you write the same version of constantly, a default answer for the question you get asked every week, a standing rule instead of a fresh decision every single time something familiar comes up. You won't eliminate the number, but you can hand a chunk of it back to a system instead of your brain. And one more thing, I want to say it here because I think it matters. Don't hand those decisions to AI either. I know that feels like the obvious shortcut, and honestly, I get it. But the problem isn't just that AI doesn't have enough context about your specific clients, your voice, your situation. The deeper problem is that the decision making itself is where your brain learns. It's how you develop instincts, how you get better at reading people, how you build the kind of judgment that actually grows a business over time. And if you're outsourcing the deciding, you're outsourcing the growing. So use AI as a tool, use other humans you trust for the hard calls, but keep the deciding in your hands. I'd love to know what your number ends up being if you try this. Drop it in the comments. I do read every single one. And I have a feeling a lot of you are going to be surprised the same way I was. And if a chunk of your daily decisions are actually the same handful of repeated choices that could live in a system instead, that's exactly the kind of thing that I do over at By Austin Blanchard. I help you build a strategy. I help you build a plan. I help you build a system. And if you need a brand and a website that speaks to your ideal clients, that's what we do over at Creative Cabana, as well as other digital marketing assets. So just remember, enjoy the journey, my friend, because it's a good one.